Hello?
Well, I guess it's on. This was Julie Bright. Thank you for playing with us this evening. She's one of our very talented members. We begin this evening with a nigun, a wordless melody. Let's join in Yai da da dai. Yai da dai 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 da dai 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 dai. Yai da dai 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 dai. Yai da dai 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 da dai 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 dai. Yai da dai 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 dai.
November the 7th, 1938, a young 17-year-old Polish-Jewish young man, Herschel Grinspan, was overwrought by the deportation of his family from Germany. And so he let out his anger by stealing a pistol and assassinating a German foreign official named Ernst von Rath. In response, on November the 9th, 1938, the Nazi Party organized what came to be known as Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass. Violent anti-Jewish demonstrations broke out across Germany, Austria, the Sudetenland region of Czechoslovakia. And over the next 48 hours, violent mobs spurred by anti-Semitic exhortations from Nazi officials destroyed hundreds of synagogues, burning or desecrating Torah scrolls and artifacts along the way. Acting on orders from the Gestapo, police officers and firefighters did nothing to prevent the destruction. All told, 7,500 Jewish businesses were destroyed, homes and schools were plundered, 91 people were murdered, and 30,000 Jewish men were arrested and sent to concentration camps. Blaming the Jewish community, ironically, for the riots that had destroyed their own businesses, the Nazi officials imposed a fine of 1 billion Reichsmarks, the equivalent of $400 million, not in today's money, but in 1938 rates, on the already systematically impoverished German Jewish community. And so, as we think about the anniversary of that occasion, and as we commemorate that on this Shabbat, we're reminded that there is an admonition in Jewish tradition that you are to take your elements of mourning and set them aside in favor of embracing the peace and the renewal of Shabbat. And so as we think about how we use this Shabbat to commemorate that onslaught of darkness that consumed so much of the world beginning on that fateful night, we remember these words that were borrowed from a text that was 800 years old. In the 12th century, Maimonides authored what he called the 13 attributes of faith. 13 things, he said, you got to hold on to in your heart and in your soul to believe if you want to be part and parcel of the Jewish people. And each of those 13 protestations of faith began with these two words, ani ma'amin, I believe. The 12th of the 13 says, ani ma'amin, be'emuna shlema, I believe with perfect faith, beviat HaMashiach, in the coming of the Messiah. Ve'af al pi shemit mamea, but even though the Messiah may be delayed, im kol ze ani ma'amin, even still, I believe. And I think that is what is so spiritually resonant and emotionally overpowering, was that in the face of darkness and destruction and a sense of hopelessness, there was an assertion by Jews, even in the darkest of moments, that this isn't the way the world is supposed to be. And this isn't the way the world will always be. That even in the midst of those dark times, they said, no, we're going to hold on to tikvah, to hope, to emunah, to faith, to a belief and a certainty in our hearts that no matter how dark and difficult it appears to be now, it will not always be this way. What we learn also from, I think, the anniversary of that time is that it's not enough to wait for God to impose the blessings of hope on us. We need to bring into our own hearts that remedy, that therapy of hope. But even more than the hope that we hold on to inside, we need to turn our lives into agencies of hope outside. It is us that need to be not only given, but embracing of the responsibility to turn that world in which we live, no matter how dark or desperate it may seem, into that radiant, bright light of a messianic dream. And I want us, as we begin this Shabbat, not to focus our attention on the memory of that destruction, but as we embrace the spirit of Shabbat, I want us instead to meditate on something a little bit different. So I want to ask you for a moment to indulge me, please, and just close your eyes and settle yourself. Put both feet flat on the floor. Unfold your arms, that defensive posture, so that the rabbi doesn't hit you. And just put in your mind a vision of utopia. I want you to imagine a world in which people are not consumed with obsession with difference, but a world in which we embrace the diversity of human experience. I want us to imagine a world in which we never lock our doors because there's nothing to fear outside of our homes. I want us to imagine a world in which the scourge of hate is but a memory. A world where truly swords have been beaten into plowshares and spears into pruning hooks. When nation no longer lifts up sword against nation, and no longer do they learn war no more, but a world in which all lives in harmony, in justice, and in peace. Imagine if you could turn at least your block into that vision, or your household, that you could let go of your animosities and your resentments and instead brace a vision of love and understanding and commitment to working to make the world the kind of place where God and we can dwell together as one. And with that vision before our eyes and implanted within our hearts, we say to each other, Shabbat Shalom. Please take a moment and turn to those who are seated near you, those in front of you, behind you, next to you. Wish them Shabbat Shalom. If you don't know those people, introduce yourselves. To those of you who are joining us online this evening, wherever you are, we wish you Shabbat Shalom and feel the embrace of us coming into your homes as well. It's my privilege to invite our bat mitzvah, Lily Kupferman, and her family to lead us in the celebration of candles and Kiddush.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all those who behold us. As their brightness remind us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Melech haolam,
asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Continue on pages 4 and 5 with the celebration of the Kiddush.
Maybe.
All right.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov. Ready? The heaven and the earth were finished, and all their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing, and God ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'yahava uvratzon inhilanu zikaron l'maaseh Bereshit Gihu Yom Tehila Amikrai Kodesh Zeher Letziat Mitzrayim Kivanu Vaharta Ve'otanu Kidashta Mikol Hamim Shabbat Kodsheka Be'ahava Uvratzon In Hatzanu Baruch Atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
L'chaim. Avazopi. We continue now on page 24. We invite everyone to rise together as we embrace our mission of ambassadorhood, as we welcome the ministering angels of God's court into our hearts and in our homes, into our congregation and our community, so that we together can help them to help us to embrace the full peace of Shabbat.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Yi Melech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mo'echem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom,
Page 29, we read together. O God, you are as near as the very air we breathe, yet farther than the farthermost star. We yearn to reach you. We seek the light and warmth of your presence. Though we say you are near, we are lonely and alone. Let our desire be so strong that it will tear the veil that keeps you from our sight. Let your light release our darkness and reveal the glory and joy of your presence. Together on page 30. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim b'chokhma poteach she'arim uvitvuna mishanei itim umachalif et hazmanim umesader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono borei yom v'layla golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or.
Umavir yom umevin laila, umavdil ben yom uben laila, Adonai tzvaot shmo, El chaim v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Amariv Aravim.
Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לעולכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
The very famous psychiatrist Viktor Frankl was a physician in Germany and then was captured and spent years during the Holocaust in Auschwitz and other camps. He wrote a very famous book after his experiences when he survived the war called Man's Search for Meaning. And in this book, he says something absolutely profound. He says, you know, the Nazis could control everything there was about our existence. When we woke, where we went, what we did, when we went to bed, even when we went to the commode. The one thing he said they could not control is how we would greet the day. He said, we can either wake up today and say today's a good day to live or not. And he told a story about a man who had it in his head somehow that the camp was going to get liberated on March the 30th. And they had some reason to think so. They could see the planes, they could see the nervousness of the soldiers, they could hear the front approaching. And he started walking with a bit of a spring in his step despite the starvation and the disease, and he said, I'm telling you guys, it's going to be March the 30th. It's going to be March the 30th. And then it became clear that it wasn't going to be March the 30th. And on March the 29th, he went into the infirmary. And on March the 30th, he slipped into a coma. And on March the 31st, he died. And the camp was liberated on April the 9th. So long as he had it in his mind that there was a tomorrow, that there was hope, that there was reason to have faith, he could survive and withstand more than any human being could. And it was at that moment that he lost that hope, that sense that there could be a tomorrow, that his life was over. Not just physically, but spiritually. And one could say that the Israelites, when they were enslaved in Egypt, did not have lives at all. They were born slaves, they grew up as slaves, they lived their lives of slaves, and they died as slaves. But it was when Moses and the Holy One offered them a ray of hope that there could be a linear path in history that could lead them from the suffering and despair of their slavery into the wide expanse of a promised land of freedom, that they were able to find the strength to persevere, to move on, and to find a path to liberation and wonderment. Page 40.
אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גא ישראל.
Page 43. We say together, let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai hapores sukat shalom aleinu, V'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. איי 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 ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. יששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. איי 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 ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. יששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש.
We continue on page 46 with the tefillah,
Please rise as we continue together.
Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei V'zocher chasdei avot v'imahot, u'mevhi geula libnei v'neihem, l'ma'an shemo be'ahava, melech ozer, u'moshia u'magen, baruch atah Adonai, magen Avraham, ve'ezrat Sarah. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל, אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, צומק נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. In Warsaw, there was a rabbi, Rabbi Azrael David Fastig, who had the most beautiful voice. He full-time earned his living as a clothing store owner, but he is the one who led services in the Warsaw community and was famous for this gorgeous voice. As the war was coming, tens of thousands of Jews in his community of Warsaw were being shipped off daily in cattle cars. One day, the rabbi himself found himself on a train on the way to the death camps. On that train was another Jew who said to him, "We want to hear you sing a song, a tune."
the song of the Modzitzer Rebbe, a rabbi that the community followed. And so Rabbi Azrael David Fastig closed his eyes, and he was no longer in that cattle car. Instead, he was on the bima, and it was Yom Kippur, and he was singing with all of his heart these words, Ani ma'amin be'emunah shlema, b'viad HaMoshiach, va'af al pi sheyishme'am, im kol zeh akazeh lo b'chol yom shiavo. I believe with perfect faith in the coming of the Messiah, and even though he may tarry, nevertheless I wait each day for his coming. He closed his eyes and sang the most beautiful tune, setting these words alight in the cattle car. Those in the car decided this tune had to be passed on to the world at large. And so 2 young men jumped off the train. One was killed instantly, but the other survived the Holocaust and made his way to the Holy Land, the land of Israel, where he taught the tune to those who survived, who lived to tell the story of those who had died. That Ani Ma'amin is the song that was on the lips of so many that went to their deaths, and it is the song that will be on our lips tonight after silent prayer. Please rise as the ark is opened and we continue with our prayers for healing. Yishaberach avotenu v'imotenu. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless all those in need of healing. May God grant chokhmah, wisdom, to those who care for them. May God grant ahava, love, to those who hold them deeply in their hearts. And may God grant chazak v'amatz, courage and strength, to all those in need of healing. In our prayers this evening, Jim Alexander, Benita Appel, Anya Baum, Fred Belkin, Brenda Bello, Ricky Berger, Jackie Burrs, Mike Blackman, Margie Berman Block, Kathleen Bower-Sachs, Monica Lowenthal-Butchnick, Dorothy Bucksbaum, Leona Chanin, Mariella Contreras, Cheryl Elbrand, Arnold Ernay, Larry Feidelman, Rhonda Finlay, Marty Fromowitz, Larry Guys, Clarice Goldstein, Jake Goldstein, Rona Guberman, Molly Hall, Marcia Hoffman, Keith Hammer, Tracy Jackson, Mitch Kaplan, Bill Lazarus, Alan Legend, Karen Levine, Rita Lokitz, E.J. Manton, Frank Mays, Zachary Morris, Natalie Batsera, Michael Penn, James Perlmutter, Jackie Robinson, Eileen Rosenbaum, Alan Rosenfeld, Matt Sakalov, Linda Salzman, Bonnie Schaefer, Etta Schaefer, Shani Batsera, Len Sirowitz, Mickey Sirowitz, Michael Solomon, Mark Sosin, Rabbi David Spitz, Michael Sprinzen, Nancy Stone, Norman Strauss, Kurt Wildforster, Lenore Wachtel, Tim Waldron, Barbara Jonensen, Jay Yaspi, and those names that you add as my hand meets your gaze. Baruch atah Adonai Rofei HaCholim.
Mishaberach imotenu v'kol habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
On this night, when we mark Kristallnacht, year before World War II and the Holocaust would begin, I want to take you to 4 places. The first place I want to take you is to the gates of Auschwitz. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, in an interview with podcaster Tim Ferriss a few months before he died, talked of why the Jewish people have survived. And he referred to a moment that took place at the gates of Auschwitz, a horror that could hardly be imagined in November of 1938. He talked of a BBC reporter who was out Auschwitz a few moments after it was liberated. And the British reporter was so overwhelmed by the emaciated bodies that were all around him, and yet still walking and speaking and thinking. And then all of a sudden, the BBC's reporter was turned to a corner of the camp where he heard a song he had never heard before. He did not know Hebrew, he did not know the words, and so he asked someone, "What is this song?" And the person answered, "It is Hatikva, the hope." 3 years later, that song would become the national anthem of the Jewish people and the state of Israel. But then it was just a word, Tikva, hope. And Jonathan Sachs, we are a people who stands at the gates of hell and sing of hope. The second place I want to take you should be on the screen in a moment, and it is to an apartment in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. It is a man named Nathan Helu that you see on the screen. Nathan was a young 19-year-old when he enlisted in the Army. and he was sent to Nuremberg to cover the Nuremberg trials as a soldier, but he was an artist as well. And so what he did in his free time is he drew the art of all the ugliness that he saw of Goering kissing his wife in the last moments when she slipped him a cyanide tablet so he could commit suicide rather than be subjected to his judgment at Nuremberg. He drew himself as a young soldier with his number that you see in the corner of the picture, Private First Class Nathan Helu. He was witness to justice that took place far too late after 6 million and so many others had been killed. And so from Auschwitz to Nuremberg, then we travel across the ocean to here, to South Florida, to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, which has been in the news this week because of the classroom of Ivy Lee Seamus. South Florida has a mandate to teach Holocaust. All of the state has it, but it is well funded in South Florida. And Ivy Lee Seamus has turned her classroom into what has been known as the Holocaust class at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Since 2009, she's taught in room 1209, story of horror and hope, bringing in survivors, including members of this congregation, to talk to her students. 2 of her students were killed on the day of February 14th, the shooting of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, Nicholas and Helena, and I promised her that I would say their names tonight. She is in the news this week, and her classroom is in the news this week because some want it not called the Holocaust class. They want it called room 1209. It is locked. Her possessions are still in that room. It is frozen in time. But she wants it called the Holocaust class. It is where the Holocaust was taught, and it is where her students died, and it is where hundreds of students have learned the stories and carried on the history. It is to her and will always be the Holocaust class. And the last place I take you on our journey is the Beck family campus, where I was this morning. When you walk into the Beck family campus, there are bricks that are engraved. Some are in memory of people, and some are in honor of people. And when next time you are at the Beck family campus, look in the lower right-hand corner, and you will see a brick engraved in honor of one of our congregants, Howard Guggenheim. It says, in honor of Howard Guggenheim and in memory of those you have lost, because Howard Guggenheim was a little boy in Germany, 8 years old, on Kristallnacht. He and his brother slept in his synagogue on that night in 1938. They protected it from destruction, and just a week later, his family fled. And he arrived here, ultimately raised in Ohio, and now part of Temple Bethel of Boca Raton. And perhaps that is the sentiment around Anima Amin. How could those who were witnessing what they were witnessing all those many decades ago believe? And yet they did. And because they did, today, 300 little children at the Beck family campus, where there is a brick engraved in honor of Howard Guggenheim, celebrated Shabbat and sang Hebrew and rejoiced in freedom. It is very far from Auschwitz, and yet in some ways it is very, very close. And so on this night of Kristallnacht, do not let it be in vain, these 4 stories. Instead, understand that these are our stories to tell, that while we were not there, most of us, we are here to hear the stories of the generations that did survive those nights, of those who didn't, those who lived to tell, and their children and grandchildren. And if we really mean Anima Amin, if we really mean I believe, we have full faith and trust in God, we understand that it is a partnership with God that makes our world beautiful. That when that partnership is dead, as it was during the Holocaust, people die. When that partnership is alive, as it is today for us in 2021, then it is truly a beautiful world. And so as we travel on this night across the decades to understand the legacy of Kristallnacht, God willing, we will go forward with those stories and with those beliefs. Shabbat Shalom. At this time in our service, we continue with Aleinu L'Shabeach. Please rise as we continue on page 282.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol, l'teit gedula le'yotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoyei aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelpenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. V'nehemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
At this time, it is a pleasure to invite forward our temple president, Wendy Whalen, with greetings on behalf of the Board of Trustees.
Shabbat Shalom. It's wonderful to be back here with all of you. Before I begin, I would just like to mention to the driver of a BMW X3, a black one, license plate IEU 585. If that's your car, your lights have been on. Okay, and now to really begin. Candles and Kiddush tonight were done by the Kupferman family. And Lily, Mazel Tov on your bat mitzvah. It's really been a pleasure for me to have known Lori and Todd from when they first joined this temple, and they used to bring these adorable little girls to Shabbat services, and now here we are celebrating a bat mitzvah. So Mazel Tov. Next Friday, November 12th, join us for Shabbat services on virtual Beth El only, as we honor our veterans and offer gratitude and respect to those who serve in our armed forces. There will be no in-person Shabbat services that evening, as we will all be at home enjoying one of the temple's most popular programs, the Night of 50 Shabbat dinners. And at Lunch and Learn this Tuesday, November 9th, from 12 noon until 1 p.m., again on virtual Beth El, we will be joined again by beloved lecturer and Lynn University professor, Dr. Robert Watson. He will be discussing Israel, the final days of the Holocaust, and the historic roots of the resurgence of anti-Semitism and hate today. The lunch series continues on Tuesdays, November 16th and 30th. Dr. Robert Watson is not to be missed, and again, only on virtual Beth El. And as you might know, Hanukkah is early this year, and we have so many wonderful ways to celebrate. Bohemian Maccabee Rhapsody, the retelling of the Hanukkah story to the music of Queen on Friday, December 3rd. A community candle lighting at Uptown Boca Shopping Center on Tuesday, November 30th. Our famous latke sale and more, and all of this information can be found on our website, tbeboca.org/Hanukkah. Hanukkah 2021. You can visit that website for information about all of our wonderful events. As you make your way towards the Welcome Center, please stop by our tzedakah box and consider making a contribution to our tzedakah fund. Our Social Action Committee disperses those funds to local nonprofits to support their important work. And speaking of social action, I've had the pleasure of working with Suzanne Katz on many social action programs. I'd like to invite Suzanne to speak with us about our biggest social action program of the year, the Giving Tree. Shabbat Shalom.
Hello, everyone. I'm Suzanne Katz, and I've been working with the Giving Tree for a lot of years. And it's a fabulous organization that was created over 30 years ago, and it started by just helping local families, and now we have grown tremendously. Every holiday season, we provide gifts to over 2,000 kids and seniors, and 200 dinners for families in need. It's fabulous because we are able to provide gifts for these families that possibly or very likely would not be able to have a good holiday season with gifts. So what can you do? You can help us fulfill a wish list of one of these children or more of these children if you'd like to. And there are several different ways that you can do that. If you notice when you walk out, we have new giving trees. They're white and sparkly and they look very pretty, and they have a card on them. And if you turn the card over, there's a QR code, and you can scan this, and then that will take you right to our website, and there you can choose a child to shop for. Or you can just go to our website, which is also on here, and choose a child to shop for. Or you can email us and let us know that you're interested, and we will send you a list. Or if you don't have time to shop, you can make a donation. We are also always in need of gift cards. We give our teenagers gift cards, and that way they can choose exactly what they want. So it'd be wonderful. The more of you that can help, the more that we can ensure that these children have a really wonderful holiday. Thank you very much.
My grandparents left Europe, and I am guessing some of your grandparents left Europe decades before the Holocaust. A woman named Hannah Senish left Europe before the Holocaust. She was from Budapest, and she went to be part of British Mandate Palestine. And she could have lived there and worked hard to establish the land, but instead, during World War II, she decided that she could be more useful as a spy, and so she was parachuted down back into Europe and crossed over back into Hungary and was caught immediately. She ultimately died. Her remains years later were moved to Mount Herzl along with other paratroopers that died with her. It is these words of Yesh Kochavim that we will read together. The poetry that she wrote, the beautiful words that she had to say. Or I will read them to you if they are not on the slide. Join with me if they end up on the screen. There are stars up above, so far away, we only see their light long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. At this time in our service, our thoughts turn to all those who are no longer with us, those who died at this season in years past, and those who have been taken into our hearts as our own. On the yard sites, the anniversaries of our death, and in the period of Shloshim, if you have a name of a loved one that is being read, we invite you to rise when that name is read. On their yard sites, we remember Rabbi Morton M. Applebaum, Anna Averbuk, Pearl Barkin, Ruth Barron, Gussie Becker, Hyman Belkin, Norman Berman, Ira Berman, Sandra Bossie Bloom, Rose Bobroff, Juliet Miller Cohen, Ann Cohn, Jean Kippel Drobner, Norma Dolman, Barry Stephen Ernay, Theo Esco, Ferdy Falk, Milford Denny Faust, Yaakov Fishman, Sidney Fluke, Helen Jane Barr Friedman, Michael Gefter, Marilyn Gefter, Corinne Finkel Goodstein, Donna Greenberg, Sadie Grossberg, Ephraim Haspel, Bruno Hess, Herbert Hutt, Erwin Kahn, Alexander Kahn, Morris Kammer, Frida Kammerman, Isidore Kaufman, Joan Kleinberg, James Howard Krieger, Dora Kreitzberg, Charles Labgold, Francis Leitcher, Rachel Liebman, Rosalie Latinsky, Esther Lober, Sammy Lobel, Hyman Malik, Faye Mankin, Julius Mielbaum, Lynn Metzger, Herman Malovsky, Dennis Morton, Sari Niemark, Janice Platt, Alan W. Pollock, Fred Pollock, Lillian Pollock, Sam Rabinovitz, Sarah Rabinovitz, Mary Ray, Rose Reich, Philip Rubenstein, Morris Sacker, Sylvia Sape, Helen Saracen, Ernest Sanders, Saul Schillett, Israel Schnabel, Herbert Schwartz, Marvin Schenker, Tema Siegel, Jerry Singerman, Max Slotnick, Bill Stetter, Ron Stone, Marilyn D. Swab, Sally Tandet, Fania Teslar, Grandma Test, Marvin Wallach, Philip Swiner, Bertha Weingart, Sidney Wolgan, and the period of Shloshim, those who've been laid to rest in recent days: Gladys Pickman, Craig Long, Herbert Herb Levin, Joyce Bergman, Rose Mandel, Arlene Merson, Leatrice Lustgarten, Hubert Walken, Judith Ginsburg, Perry Burke, Howard Glansman, Omar Spitz, Barbara Sohn Marcello, Felicitia Rugal, and Robert Tishio. Please add any names you are observing as well at this time as my hand meets your gaze, and those who are home as well. Zichronam Levracha, may all their memories be for blessing. Please rise as we continue together as a community with the words of the Mourner's Kaddish on page 294. We join together. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divarach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chaye echon uvyom echon, uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'yimru amen. Yehi shemei Rabbah mivarach le'olam olmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemedi kudasha b'rechu, la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'yimru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, Hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort the bereaved among us, and let us say amen.
Special thanks to our wonderful musicians, to Julie Bright on the violin, Vindhya Kari on the piano, and Jeff Renza on the percussion. And thank you to the gentleman behind the scene making this all possible, and to Terry in the lobby keeping us all safe. Let's join in the words of Eli, Eli. Eli.
Christus
We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.